So I went to the job center. I met this very lovely guy, and he said to me I told him what I wanted, like I need national insurance number, and he asked about what job are you applied. I told him what job I've got, and he said, Miss Kimiti, at that time I was still using my maiden name. Jobs like this are not for people like you.
He said that?
He said that on my face. People like you should apply for jobs like in a care home or cleaning jobs. And he was like straight with a smile, telling me that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I left job center. They didn't give me national insurance number. I never got to work into the high street shop. And I left job center without national insurance number. As I said, sometimes we can become our own enemies. Sometimes you look, I don't know if you've heard the imposter syndrome. It's real, and I think it's worse for women. It's like you look at the job description and you're looking at it, maybe 4 things you can do it. Only one item with the bullets, you can't do it. You think you're not good enough to do the job. So sometimes we are self-limiting ourselves. But sometimes I believe we don't see role models. You don't see people look like you at the higher position. So maybe that's the answer maybe for our audience. What were they taught in school? Maybe they are taught about maybe a little bit about slavery or Rosa Parks. But were they taught about kingdom like Mali kingdom? You have someone like Mansa Musa, the richest man I think ever lived. You have like Egypt, you have those pyramids. There's a lot you have like in Nigeria. There are people who are very good at arts, and their sculpture. So there were people who were really good. But are we publishing the achievements of black people? Are we publishing what, let's say, what we bring, for example, in UK society? Because I remember this is something I usually say, are we invisible?
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Welsh Dream podcast, where we bring you inspiring conversations about inspiration, innovation, success, and everything in between right here in Wales. So I'm your host Kim, and I'm joined today by a very special guest, someone who is a real testament of what the Welsh Dream is. So welcome, Pru.
Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, we are happy for you to be here as well. So you've just been to Windsor Castle, haven't you?
I know. Just last week I was in Windsor Castle, and it was absolutely amazing. So I'll just tell you a little bit.
Yes.
Last year I received MBE, which stands for Member of British Empire, Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. So I received it for the service to diversity, but it's been a very long couple of months, and now I just been invited. So it was on 3rd of October. I went to Windsor Castle to receive my medal, and it was Princess Anne, Royal Princess, who gave me that medal. So it was absolutely great because my mom, my dad were there as well. They just traveled from Tanzania, so they just come to attend my investiture. So I was absolutely overwhelmed with all the congratulations, all the well done, because as soon as you walk into the Windsor Castle, they are welcoming you, and they start, congratulations, you say thank you. Then the next person, I think I've said thank you more than 50 times. By the time I arrived, it was like thank you, thank you, thank you. So it was absolutely amazing. So thanks, Kim.
Oh, congratulations. Honestly, well deserved.
You know what? People, they're asking me, they're saying, why do you think you deserve this award? And for me, I don't know if I'll say I deserve, but because I was nominated by colleagues in work and they think I deserve, I'm really, really appreciative, because I look at other people who are on a list. You'll see footballers, you'll see people, they've done amazing things, and I can't believe, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm among those people. So it's absolutely, honestly, I'm still like in cloud 9, like
buzzing from it.
Yes,
as you should, honestly, as you should. So can you actually tell us a bit more about the award and what it took for you to reach the place where your colleagues were thinking that, you know, you deserve to be nominated for an MBE, and then you getting it?
Okay, so maybe I should kind of go back and start where I start. So I came to the UK in 1996, came from Tanzania. So for those who are bad in geography like me, Tanzania is a country in East Africa. So it's next to Kenya or Uganda. And if, for example, maybe you've seen it on TV, maybe whether it's Mount Kilimanjaro or Serengeti. So maybe you've heard about Tanzania, but you've never really know where it is. So it's in East Africa. So I came here to finish my education. Why I chose Cardiff, I will say, it was just my cousin was here, but also colonial links, because British Tanzania used to be part of colonial of the UK. So that's how I came to Cardiff. So I came to finish my education. I did my first of all, it was National Diploma in Information Technology. Then I did my degree, Business Information Systems. Then I did my master's in Business Administration. So fast forward, I joined HMRC, which stands for His Majesty Revenue and Customs, in 2005. So I joined HMRC at a very lower grade. So my job was just to take letters, put in envelopes and closing them. Those brown envelopes, people, they usually
no
hate.
one likes that.
I know. So those was me just taking a letter. And I've become really quite a specialist with the damp brush. I used to know how to wet the edges of the envelopes. That was my day, like day in, day out. But what I've recognized in HMRC, lots of ethnic minorities, we are at the lower grade. So we usually make a joke to say it's like a pint of Guinness glass. I don't know how many drink beer, but it's black at the bottom and white on top. So that is something, but I loved my job. Whatever I'm doing, I'm putting 110% in my job. So I started doing that job, and then within 6 months, I think they recognize I'm supposed to do, let's say, only 300 letters. I was doing maybe 1,000 or 3,000 a night. So they gave me promotion. So I started being the one who writing those letters. So I did that. So for another 6 months, then I got another promotion to become a manager. So you could see within short time, I kind of jumped 2 grades. So I become manager. However, there it seems like my career seems to stall. I couldn't get on, I couldn't go higher. I just stayed there at that band, which is the manager level. So I didn't stop there as well. I moved to a different work. I started doing caseworker, and that's where I meet my mentor. But we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
But that's how I started. But for me, it's been passion of mine seeing why we've got black people, Asian people, they've got ability to do the job, but why are we doing a job at the lower grade? But maybe that's the experience, or maybe that's what they think. They are self-limiting themselves, thinking that's the only job they could do. However, this is something I've been passionate about, and maybe that's the job they've been told they can do, because I had an experience before joining HMRC to do with maybe you can only do cleaning job or care home. I had that experience, yeah.
So actually, because I think you've told me the story before,
Yeah.
I think it will be useful as context, really. Can you tell us a bit more about, after you finished your studies and then now your journey, basically, when you were looking for employment, and basically the perceptions that you were met with?
Okay, so the first job I applied for, it was with this high street retailer. I'm not going to name who it was. So I applied the job, and I got to the interview, and I was successful at the interview. I don't know how many people they know, but ages ago, I'm not sure if the process has changed. You used to find the job first, then you need to go to the job center to get national insurance number. So that used to be the process. And I remember I was successful at the interview on condition me obtaining national insurance number. So I went to the job center. I met this very lovely guy, and he said to me I told him what I wanted, like I need national insurance number, and he asked about what job are you applied. I told what job I've got, and he said, Miss Kimiti, at that time I was still using my maiden name, jobs like this are not for people like you.
He said that?
He said that on my face. People like you should apply for jobs like in a care home or cleaning jobs. And he was like straight with a smile, telling me that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I left job center. They didn't give me national insurance number. I never got to work into the high street shop, and I left job center without national insurance number. Then relative new to the country. I didn't know about my rights. I left job center without that national insurance number. I think if it happens now, it would have been different story. I would complain bitterly, but then I left. So for me, I'm thinking at that time, what did that man say? Why did he say the only job I can do is either care home or cleaning job? I think what he saw, maybe what he saw is the color of my skin, or what he saw was my accent, because at that time you're still speaking like English is your second language, so you've got that accent. Or maybe what he saw is this person is not fit to work in a shop. So imagine, I finished my degree. So even my degree to this man, it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
For him, all he saw is this is an immigrant, this is someone maybe who is black, she's not fit to work in a shop. So taking advice I was given, because I needed that national insurance number, I applied for the care home. So I got the job in a care home, and I was given a national insurance number with no question asked. And I remember I only worked one night and I didn't turn up the next day. So really I got the shop, and I got the national insurance number, and I work on only one night. Then I found the job I really wanted. And at that time I worked to this company called Bowser. I was doing volunteering. So I was helping refugees women to settle in the UK. And what I noticed, I thought I was worse, or I thought I had bad experience, but you listening to these women and child who came from well-known, for example, they had nice jobs back home, and you realize, you know what, Prue, you are lucky, you had easy life. So I worked with them for a couple of months. I think it was nearly 18 months. Then that's when I joined HMRC. But I've worked with these women as well.
So I think what you've just explained your experience to be is one that, a lot of people that we support as the CAE, have, they're met, whether it be a job center or even in a job that they're applying for, with all these negative perceptions, sometimes not necessarily that overt, like you were saying, he said it clearly, but sometimes it's hidden. And I think it takes a toll on people's confidence. And now they've put now a limit on things that they're able to achieve. And again, you'll see so many people who were strongly qualified back home, have had businesses, all of that. They come and now they've just decided to be delivery drivers, just because we are not creating a system that is supportive enough for people to just dream big and achieve whatever their dreams are. So for you, I think it's really commendable that even though this person said all of this about you, you still didn't allow that to stop you. You even used that as sort of motivation to be like, I'll find a way around what you're saying, and I'll get my insurance number and I'll find another job. But then I think in reality, it's not always the case for people, as it really just knocks them down completely.
Right, and sometimes you need to have that supportive people around you. I've been very lucky. I've mentioned my mentor. I've got family around in Cardiff, so our family is huge. I've got friends, so I got people who believe in me. So I've got people, when I tell them I want to apply for this job, they're not pulling me down or telling me you're not capable of doing the job. As I said, sometimes we can become our own enemies. Sometimes you look, I don't know if you've heard the imposter syndrome. It's real, and I think it's worse for women. It's like you look at the job description and you're looking at it, maybe 4 things you can do it, only one item with that bullets, you can't do it. You think you're not good enough to do the job. So sometimes we are self-limiting ourselves, but sometimes I believe it's we don't see role models. You don't see people look like you at that higher position. So you believe maybe when you go, for example, in HMRC, you see, let's say, lots of black people at lower grade or doing cleaning job or security job. Maybe you think that's how far we can go.
That's the maximum.
Yeah, that's the maximum.
Glass ceiling though, right?
Yeah, it's a glass ceiling. It's like you think that's how far, but seeing someone from, like, people seeing someone like me coming from Tanzania, not born in this country, break that glass ceiling, it kind of gives them hope. You think, if Prue can get into that higher position, why can't I? So it's kind of give people hope. Even our younger generation, they're thinking, you know what, I can get it somewhere. I remember I was talking to my nephew, and I asked, what do you want to do when you finish college? And he said he want to be security officer in Tesco. There's nothing wrong being security officer, because that's a job and we need people to do it. But that made me wonder, why is he specifically say he wants to be a security officer? Is it because he see lots of people doing security work, or is it because that's what he's maybe
Genuinely.
he's genuinely happy to do it? So sometimes I usually tell people, because they are telling me, oh, how about when I'm doing this? I said, if it's a job you love doing, please do. Definitely, I respect everyone's choice of what they want to do. Whether you think cleaning, you're passionate about cleaning, that's what you want to do, that's fine. But someone says they've went to uni, did 3 years law, and then they want to do cleaning. That one I'll question them, like, so you went to do law to do cleaning? That's questionable. But if that you genuinely love cleaning, or you genuinely love to care home, because I feel care home is a really, honestly, I respect all people that are doing caring. But if that's what they went to university or college, they passionately want to do it, that's fine. But are they limiting themselves? Are they just stopping themselves because they believe that's the only job they can get? So yeah.
No, I think you touched on a really important point about having a supportive network. You know, not everyone is lucky to have supportive family, or even just family around in the UK. Normally people would have migrated just on their own. So I think it's just always important, if anyone can find, whether it's an organization, whether it's a friend, you found a mentor as well, anyone who can sort of surround you with positivity, support, and just so much love for you to just achieve whatever you need to achieve in life. Definitely.
No, you're totally right. And sometimes we feel like if we had that network, that friend, or that company where we can tell, when you come to the country, they can tell you, okay, if you're looking for jobs, this is where you need to go. If you're looking, for example, national insurance number, this is what you need to do.
This is what the CAE is here for.
Yeah, and that's, to be honest, you're doing an amazing job, because that's all we wanted. If you are there maybe 20 years ago when I was looking for that job, I think I wouldn't be. Maybe I would be, I don't know, because sometimes the journey, I can't say I would be higher, or maybe I'll be running the country or running HMRC, but maybe it will be a different story. But sometimes I will say my journey has been very lucky. I think I've had first of all, I'm a woman of faith, so I do thank God, because I wouldn't be here without His power. But again, I would say my journey has been, I think I feel blessed. I've been blessed, honestly, to where I came, to where I am now.
Amazing. So you've started to talk about your journey in HMRC.
Yeah.
Can you speak more then about that point where you'd reached the managerial level and then you just felt like you were stagnated and you couldn't go any further? What was happening in that time?
Okay, so at that time, as I said, I didn't stop there, so I changed jobs. The good thing about HMRC, there's lots of departments where you can go and work. So I moved to another section, which is high net worth unit. So I was dealing with the tax affairs of rich and famous. So any person in the UK who is high earner, that's what we were dealing with. So when I was there, that's when I met my mentor. So I heard there's this guy, he was grade 7 at that time, and I was Bando, which is officer level, and they said, oh, he helped lots of people to apply for jobs. So I went and approached him. That is something which, for me, if I need help, I'll go and ask for it. So I went and approached him, and I said, okay, there's this job I like and I want to apply for it, will you help me? And he said, oh, when is the deadline for the job? I was like, tomorrow. Yeah, he did look at my application, but I wasn't successful at that time. Okay. However, we started working on my application. So he started looking at the way I drafted my statement, the way I draft, because in civil service, we've got this competence where they're asking you to give an example on 250 words. Okay. So sometimes it's knowing how you can put all the example. Yourself. That's correct. Yeah. So he started working on it. So within few months, I got my promotion to higher officer, and I will say, it's been great, because if you ask me what was it, what helped you? So for me, I'm thinking maybe he's a white man, so he was a white man. Maybe because English wasn't my first language, and the way I'm drafting my examples maybe wasn't come across clearly, or maybe
because you've got the experience, you've got all the competencies. It's just how to put it across.
How to put it across, and it can be, because sometimes you can do the work, but it doesn't mean you're really good at putting in 250 words what you can do. So maybe that's it, or maybe he gave me the confidence, because I've realized, like, Like, I used to hate public speaking.
Right.
It was my nightmare. Like, even to come into a show like this, I would have said absolutely no way, forget it. But I think for me, I was my own enemy as well. And for me, it's like, I was thinking, will people understand my accent? Would they understand what I'm trying to say? So that was limiting me, so I wasn't very confident to come, but it was very successful. So when I got to the higher officer level, I moved as well. So my background was revenue, so I moved to customs. I knew nothing about customs, so I started learning from scratch. So I was a caseworker in customs, so I worked for the higher officer for 2 years. Then I got promotion again to senior officer, which was like a consultant. So I was supporting other people to answer queries when someone import or export goods to the UK. I was that consultant. So I was covering Cardiff, Bristol, and Birmingham. So that was my job. And I was lucky enough, when I was doing that customs work, HMRC were sending people to Africa to share best practice, how we doing our customs work in the UK. And guess who they picked?
For you to go to Africa.
I know. And on top of that, it was just not Africa. They wanted to go to Madagascar, Namibia, and Tanzania. So I went home. Imagine, they paid me to go home. And I thought it was absolutely amazing to share my experience with these countries, to see how they're doing their work and sharing best practice. But on top of that, imagine you're going home, you're seeing your parents, and it's HMRC paying for it. I can't complain. Yeah, it was fantastic. So I did that ASO, senior officer job. I was a manager, then I was consultant again. So I usually don't stop, even at that grade. I usually try to get different experiences. So consultant, I manage a team, and I was consultant again. Then in 2021, I moved to my current role, which I am now Customs and Borders Lead in HMRC Fraud Investigation Services. So I manage a small team there across the UK. So although I'm based in Cardiff, my team is in Glasgow, Belfast, there's one in Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle, London. So you will see me traveling a lot.
Amazing.
So by our team, we develop strategies to deal with serious customs fraud, and we work with our key partners like Border Force or Intellectual Property Office or Trading Standard to put our strategies into action. So I am leading on that. The only thing I missed before, I used to be a front line going and meet traders, but now I'm the person behind and the thinking. So that's me.
Oh, amazing. I think that's a beautiful journey that you've actually just shared.
Yeah.
So for you, what has helped you in you being able to achieve all these different milestones that you've done? Obviously, the mentorship has been great, and for that you said it's been an issue about him supporting you, build your confidence. What else do you think has helped you see an opportunity and just go for it?
Maybe it's my parents, they growing up or anything, because
Tell us about that. What values, whatever they've instilled in you that have made you, this.
Yeah, for
resilient.
me, I will say growing up, I wouldn't say I was a naughty child. I think I was very quiet. No, not quiet. They used to say I had an answer for everything. Like anything you ask, I'll have an answer for it. But I was very privileged growing up. So my dad gave up his ambition. He was in Holland. He wanted to be jazz musician, but he gave up the ambition and he came back to Tanzania for working independence. So he worked with Julius Nyerere. May he rest in peace. But he was also a minister, so he became a minister. So I was very privileged growing up, but I had disabilities. So I have hip issues, knee problems. So although I had privilege, I had disabilities as well. And up to now, I've had 3 hip replacements. It's the same hip, by the way, because even in Africa, we don't have 3 hips. Yeah. So I had privilege, but my parents, I think they've taught me, like, you need to speak up. You need to believe in yourself. You need to take a risk, because the worst could happen. If you take a risk, the answer is going to be no.
And what do you have to lose?
Yeah, what do you have to lose? lose. So I think that's encouraged me.
Yeah.
But then again, I think people surrounded me, as I said before. So when I see a job, I'll speak, for example, with my cousin Maggie. I'll say, Maggie, I want to apply for this. She always tell me, go for it, apply for that job. So there are people who like positive voices. I usually tell people, who is in your ear? You need to make sure the person you're listening to is the right voice. So make sure you listen to the right voice. Who is telling you? So have the courage, I think, be able to take the risk. It's very important. And I would say I wouldn't have done it without the support, because there's some time which I'm thinking, oh, I don't know, should I do it? And when I'm thinking about giving up, someone will push me and then I'll do it better. Or they'll say, go for it, try, push yourself, I'll do it. So I will say it's been collective, it's been people around me. And as I said, I'm a woman of faith. Sometimes when I'm getting too hard, I'll sit down, I'll pray, I'll read the Bible, and that has been my source of strength, really.
I think it's about that, actually. Whatever a person believes in,
Yeah.
or wherever they can get their strength from, whether it be from friends, wherever you can get your strength from, I think just use that, basically.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone, especially if they're going through challenges in their own workplace, they don't feel like they're able to progress, they've got these ideas, they've got these ambitions, but they feel like, they're still not able to progress in their job, maybe because of, their manager, or, the culture of the organization, or maybe just themselves. What advice would you give someone in that predicament?
For me, I know it's hard to say, but I'll say please seek help. There's definitely a lot of people, we've talked about it. So even honestly, for me, I do a lot of mentoring sessions. So I mentor people in HMRC, but I mentor people outside as well. So sometimes you need to have that person you need to go and speak to someone, you need to seek help. Your organization is doing great work. It's another way they can come and speak to someone to say, I need this career advice, why I'm not progressing, or why. And also, if there's any support networks, so there's a lot of support network out there, there's a lot of things you can do out there. So I usually tell people, who are you networking? Nothing is very important, networking. For example, if let's say you've got a profile in LinkedIn, how do you use your LinkedIn account for? So try to publish your work, try to publish what you do. So for example, if you're not getting on in your organization, someone might read your LinkedIn account and realize, you know what, I would like to speak to this person. I wouldn't know if I didn't read your LinkedIn account. So push yourself, take that out of your comfort zone. But sometimes I will say resilience is important, because there's a time, I can tell you everything, but there's a time where someone will apply, but nothing is working up. So just believe your time will come. It might take ages, it might take years, but your time will come. But it's just having that support network, speaking. And also, I don't know if people, for example, if they're in work, there are a couple of, for example, in HMRC, we've got these programs where we call, for example, LEAP or Embrace, where we are supporting, for example, ethnic minorities to go to higher position. So once you do that, it gives you those examples, for example, you can use to apply for jobs. But because sometimes you might do a job, your day job, and you think maybe it doesn't give you a strong example. Think about something you can do outside
your work.
Yeah, outside your work. It doesn't have to be another job or something big. It can be with your community. Start small, because you can do something small, but you don't know, you're gonna change life of others as well. And something I usually tell people, especially for those who are already successful or they've reached their dreams or their goals, is to help others, pay it forward, because no one get where they are on their own. As I said, I didn't get where I am now without the support of others. So what I'm doing is helping others to climb the ladder as well. You reach one, you pick one, because if we hold each other hands, we're gonna go higher. So if you're successful, just support another person. Even if it's one person, you've done something. It doesn't have to be like 15 or 20. Think about one person to support, and I think that would be absolutely great.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've mentioned that you're a mentor for people both in HMRC and externally. So I'm sure you support a lot of people throughout their journey. So what are some of the key sort of issues that you see as repetitive around, the different groups that you support? What do people struggle with the most?
To be honest, I feel like most people, they are kind of limiting their own enemies.
Okay.
Because for me, they come to me, they say, Pru, I want to apply for this job, but I don't think I'm going to get it.
Okay.
So why are we applying if you don't think you're going to get it? Because that's sometimes I usually say, you never know. Because sometimes, for me, I do believe words create.
Yeah,
because if you already believe you're not going to get that job, already deep down in your spirit, you've already manifest like you're not going to get that job.
Mm-hmm.
So what I usually do is try to bring them back where they can start believing in themselves. Although sometimes they say, Pru, you helped me to get this promotion, because I remember in HMRC in 2021, I think 43% of people, they got their promotion to higher position. So I will say, maybe I didn't do even anything. All I've done is making them believe in themselves, making them believe they can do it, making them believe, at this job, I think I can do it. So they will show me the application, and then they'll say, oh, but I don't think I'm going to get it. And I'm like, so you're applying for a job which you think you're not going to get it. What's the point? And I try for them to come to an answer.
Okay.
And most of the time they'll say, oh, because I don't think black people do get promotion. And I'm like, okay, you don't think black people do get promoted, but you want to apply to see if you can get promoted. So I try to take, and sometimes I use myself as an example. I say, I am a black person, I am in this position, so black people do get the promotion. However, I think sometimes I don't blame them, because if they don't see people look like them at higher position, that's what they are feeling. That's how. So I don't blame them for feeling like that. However, it becomes like self-fulfilling prophecy. If they don't apply for jobs, they're not going to get that promotion. And I usually say, like, when they go to the interview as well, is trying to, because if you walk into the interview room, you already feel like you're not going to get the job. It's going to portray in the way you're telling your example, or it's not going to show the passion if you want that job. So all I'm trying is to make people believe in themselves. Make people, if you saw that job, when you want to apply for it, it means you know you can do that job. So that is something which I usually do a lot, not just for black colleagues, Asian colleagues, even white colleagues as well. So I don't just mentor ethnic minorities, I do mentor white colleagues as well. But I think the challenge is people, we don't believe in ourselves. We have that something at the back where we think, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm a fraud, maybe. So there's that voice which people, they hear, you keep hearing it. So what I'm trying to do is try to amplify my voice so they don't hear the other voice. So that's what I usually do. But I think most people is trying to think they're not good enough to do the job, or they shouldn't get that job. That is a big challenge I come across, yeah.
But I think when you've said, especially about the small voice at the back of your mind, I think literally if someone says they don't have a little voice in their head, I think they're probably lying. I think everyone does have it, but it's just about how you manage it and, how much you give it power. For me, it's always about knowing that you've got tangible examples of things that you've achieved. You've got things to draw from. People have believed in you. You've achieved all of this. So, use that as positive and reinforcing evidence for you to just go for your dreams, whatever they may be. And I think, especially when you've said about ambition in particular, for me, I find it pointless for anyone to be saying that their dream is something that's quite small, because give yourself space to dream big. And even if you don't achieve it, you fall somewhere in the clouds. So I think, it's always just trying to just remember that as much as possible, basically.
Things are not scaring you. It means you're not dreaming high enough. So you need to feel like when you're looking at the job and you think, oh my gosh, that's the job you should go for, because it means you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think all we need to do, I know I am saying it, but sometimes I need someone to push me out of my, shove me or put me out of my comfort zone. But it's just push yourself, like think. Well, I usually tell people, what worse could happen?
You don't get it, and then what?
Yeah, and then what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just try to push yourself.
Yeah.
Take that risk. Just go outside that comfort zone. Because to be honest, if you don't do it, no one will. If you don't believe on yourself, no one will believe on you. So you need to start believing on yourself, believe on your ability, and people will believe on what. Because sometimes you're positive, your voice, it can come out and people, they'll start believing on what you're saying. Yeah, so for me, I will say, you wake up in the morning, have that smile on your face and think, you know what, I'm gonna make a difference, I'm gonna do a great job, this job is for me. So talk to yourself to it, look in the mirror and speak to yourself, just to encourage yourself really. Like you can achieve your dream, and everything is possible. Don't listen to that small voice, or don't listen to people who say you can't, because for me, I think you can, and that's something you need to think, I can. And look at me as an example. I wasn't born in this country. I came as an immigrant, but to be where I am now, I don't say like I've got great life, but I am happy where I am, what I've achieved. But if I can do it, I think anyone can. It's just having that faith, that leap of faith, knowing anything can happen. So people, they should continue to dream big. And as we say, the Welsh dreams, yeah, it can happen. So everyone come to this country, maybe to Wales, they have a dream. And for me, to be honest, people, they say, oh, what do you think? I love Wales. I love Wales, I love Tanzania, I love both countries equally. I feel myself as Welsh person, and I feel the same as Tanzanian. My passport says I am British, but if someone say, where are you from? That question will ask anytime, I'll say I am from Tanzania. So I think most people, you are not so different to this immigrant, black, African, disabled woman. We are all the same. If you look deep down inside, we all share values, and that's where comes this intersectionality. We all share lots of things that we thought,
Actually, you know, why I love everything that you're saying is, especially, I think sometimes as, you know, diverse people or people from communities like migrant communities, we sometimes then use that as an excuse. I'm not saying that's all the time, but I think sometimes people put themselves in a place where they're using their whatever their intersectional quality is as the excuse for why they're not achieving something. It's always playing the victim, or saying, you know, because of this racist society, this is why this is that. Where sometimes you're not looking at yourself and introspecting and seeing, actually, am I being the best person that I am? Am I being the best version of myself? Am I doing everything I can to actually be the best, as opposed to then just putting all the blame on the system? So that's why I like what you're saying, because it's a lot to do with, you know, develop yourself and be the best version of you, and then opportunities will come your way, and you will be able to succeed in those different arenas.
I couldn't say it better myself. Exactly what you just said. The best version of yourself, that's what you need to bring. And it doesn't matter what job you're doing, whether you're cleaning, whether you're doing envelopes the way I used to do, or whether you're a security guard, whatever you're doing, give it 100%. Give it all your love, like be passionate. Don't think like, oh, I'm only cleaning. Even you cleaning, it's a job, it's something. So have that passion, and if you start small and love what you're doing small, the bigger item will come. So take your time, and it will come. You'll get there. But try to be the best in whatever you do. Really,
No, 100%.
You do really,
No, 100%. You are the race lead for HMRC, right?
No. I used to be so.
Okay.
I used to be race lead for HMRC, so I applied for the role, and it was my mentor who asked me to apply for it. I applied back on 2019, so for me I thought, oh, this is going to be something where I can do, because I've got at that time you have your day job as well, so I applied for the race lead role 2019, and I was successful. I didn't think it's going to take a lot of my time, but then George Floyd happened. And then the Black Lives protest movement across the globe. So everything changes. Even in HMRC, the focus shift. our chief executive, Jim Hara, race was a top priority for HMRC. So we start talking about race. We started listening events. For example, in Cardiff, we were the first people to hold listening events for our race network members. So the call was scheduled to happen for 1 hour. It lasted for 3 hours. And people were pouring all their frustration, and it feels like people, they share the experience of racism in work and outside work as well. There were a lot happening, because before we never used to talk about race a lot. Even talking about black, I usually used to say, in our old office, I used to be sitting somewhere on 13th floor in 13th South. I was the only black person in that room. The room had maybe like 60 white colleagues, and you see another person directing another person where I could be found in that room, and they will go and describe me as a tall lady, or they'll say what hair braids I've got that day, or what top I was wearing. I was the only black person in a room. You would think that would have been better identified. You're looking for Prue? Yeah, the only black lady in that room. But no, people, they didn't even have the confidence to say she's a black person. So those conversations were not happening in HMRC. But since that time, from 2020, HMRC took, it was top priority. We started, Race Equality Action Plan was there. They even appoint Race Delivery Director, so looking at the race and every issues in HMRC to do with racism. So for me, I will say I'm very proud to work with an employer who knows they had a problem. They put things in place to identify those problems, and they are committed. Like now, when we talk the issue of diversity and inclusion, it's everywhere in HMRC, is in our forefront. So although now, for example, black colleagues, now we're talking about LGBTQ, we are talking about disability. People, they feel like we are forgetting talking about race, but that's not the case. Race is still part of the conversation. And sometimes I don't know how, but when people, they're talking about race, they're thinking about black people. But what does race mean? We are human race, are we? Exactly. So why do we think race should be about black? So it's so the work I've done in those, when I was the race lead for Welsh Race Network, is to work with senior leadership in senior leadership team in Cardiff, and they really supported me, because I talked about that listening events. We hear people talking about their frustration and everything, and what came out from those listening events is the lack of progression. It looks like when you get to that officer band, people, they're not progressing to higher officers. And if you remember, it has been the same case with me. I was struggling. I think I stayed as band O for 7 years. I couldn't progress. So I was going just sideways moves. I couldn't get to the higher officers. So the frustration was to other members as well. So what we did in Wales, we started mentoring circles where senior officers, SCS, senior civil servants, will have 10 to maybe 8 to 10 ethnic minorities. And what they will do, they will share their experience. If they've seen a job, he or she will support them in their job application. So that really helped. And also we started a sponsorship, where is one-to-one sponsorship. So for anyone who was higher officers, they had like a sponsor. So they'll have, let's say, another hire, like senior civil servants with them. So if they have any issues or anything, that sponsor will support them, will find them opportunities they can do, or if there's any project they can support with. So that one we put place in Wales. And as I said, within 2 years, we've seen changes. 43% of people got promoted. So I think I'm very proud to say I was part of it. And I was listening. I was there to listen to people, listening their concerns, sharing. We had lots of informal meetings. And I think that's the reason why they nominate me for MBE, because I was there, I was listening, and I was really trying to help the community. And the Welsh Race Network, it wasn't just for ethnic minorities, it was for white colleagues as well, because they learned. So I was always trying my meetings to involve them. So the network started, when I took the network, only had 40 people. By the time I finished, last year. We had 300 people joining the race network. So I was very, very active. However, as I said, that was only 20% of my time. I had my day job as well. So it can be a challenge when you try to balance yourself. Someone wants to talk to you about the issue, but then you got your own day job. So it could be a challenge, but I'm very happy to say HMRC is a great employer. We are taking race, diversity, equality very serious, and it's something every senior leaders, they want to do more. We have lots of senior leaders doing coaching, they are doing mentoring, sponsoring. So it's a great place to work.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So actually, what can other employers, because Wales is quite a big employer in itself, what can other employers take as learning from what you've seen HMRC do?
First of all, as I said, is to recognize there is a problem, because for the employer themselves, I know, for example, DWP, I've worked very closely with DWP, and they are doing a lot of things. So other employers, for example, other government departments, they are doing something on their own, but is to recognize, is to say, yes, we have a problem. I usually tell managers, look in a room. How many ethnic minorities you have in your senior leadership team? So if you think the employer, you have 2,000 people, for example, and you have senior leadership team of let's say 100 people, there is no one ethnic minorities, that is a problem. So you need to think, are they not applying? Or are they applying, they're not getting? So it's recognizing you have a problem and then putting steps of how do I put these things right? And also maybe starting talent to find or recognizing or spotting the talent, because you have talented people. Ethnic minority, they are very talented. They can bring something, because for me, I say diverse team works better. Diverse team, people, they've got lots of ideas. So try to go into that talent, to that deep, and find those talents and find out why they're not contributing. Do they feel like their voice is not heard? And for me, I say there's something which is very powerful. I don't know if you know allies. We need allies, because yes, I can do, but I couldn't do it on my own. Allies were there to support us. Allies, for me, I believe they will amplify my voice when I'm not in the room. They will speak for me when I'm not in a room. However, when I'm there, they're not going to speak just for me. They'll just support what I'm saying. So we need allies. We need people who will support us, who will hear us, will talk about our concern. And I usually tell people, like, when Black people, for example, talking about racism, please just listen, because sometimes don't think about, I'm not racist, I didn't mean like that. That's not the point. The point that person has feel like what you've done, for example, is being racist. Maybe you are, maybe you are not. And I'm not saying Black people can always be right, but sometimes just listen, because address the concern, because we have been into this situation for 100 years. So everything, for example, you go to the store, you see the security guard following you everywhere, thinking you're gonna steal cheese or something. So when you have all those incidents happening to you, sometimes
microaggressions.
Yeah, it's like drip feeding. And sometimes if it's nothing to do with race, but because you've had that experience, you'll think even that is about race. So sometimes it's just listen. And something which I really don't like hearing is, oh, they are playing the race card. I used to hear that a lot, and I'm thinking, this person is bringing an issue where they are feeling like they have been disadvantaged, and you think they are playing the race card. So sometimes that word, for me, I'm thinking, we need to stop using it. Yeah, we need to listen to people's concerns. And I think the employer, if they can listen to their ethnic minorities, listen exactly what they want, because I believe each organization is different. HMRC, maybe the issue, people, they're not getting promoted. You will go to DWP, maybe the issue is totally different. There's overt racism. You'll go to another company, let's say trading, something different. So it's to find out what issues you have in your organization, and then admit, yes, we have these issues, and try to put something in place to take that. Yeah, so for me, that's what I will say, really.
No, and I think with that, it's always taking an approach that is involving especially like you said, the people that are being affected by some of these problems.
Yeah.
We can't have people at the top just deciding, okay, do you know what, we've got an issue with, people not getting promoted, for example.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do, without actually speaking to people. So I think just engaging with, employees and just staff to actually come to the bottom of issues and work together or co-produce solutions to that.
That's very true, yeah.
So, we've spoken a bit about what employers can do. What I'm just thinking now is, what about as a wider society? How can we be promoting a more inclusive Wales, cultural integration, just a space where everyone can feel like they can thrive and, not feeling like, you've got a target on your back. How can all of us as a society, not just people from diverse communities, all of us as a society contribute to just a more inclusive environment?
For me, I think sometimes I feel like media has something to play with it. And it's especially, for example, I'll just give you an example. Something, let's say you have 17-year-old black young boy will do something. For the way we are treating our young individual, whether they are black or white, is different. For a white person, it's gonna look like, oh, they're just growing up, they're having fun. But for the black person, it might be different. And you've seen, you'll hear, lots of black people, they'll get stopped by the police when they're driving. Or most of black people, they receive heavier punishment. So the way, I think the society is the way they are portraying, the way we are portraying black people or ethnic minorities. And I will say, is different. You'll see the media, you'll see something as done by black person, they will say, oh, this gangster, terrorist. They'll use very strong words. The same thing done with a white person will be, oh, maybe mental health, which is real, mental health is real, but maybe all we want is equal opportunity. But then again, I usually say this perception about black people or ethnic minorities, it didn't start just now. Yes, popular culture has helped to cement it in people's minds, but it started 100 years ago. It's like they're calling Africa the dark continent. You think the country where the sun is shining 24/7, they're calling it the dark continent. And also when you see the images of Africa or people from Africa, it feels like you watch movies like Tarzan, the way, and his imitators, is like that's how people, they see African people, black people, like we are war savages, primitives, uneducated. Because sometimes you realize, I heard someone making a comment telling my brother, said, oh, HMRC, they are recruiting 100 people. The work must be very easy to have lots of ethnic minorities working there. So you can see that perception, for them to think, for us to get a job, it must be very easy. But that person didn't get the idea from nowhere. They got the idea from either, I'm not sure what they are teaching in schools in here. I'm not sure. Kim, did you go to school in this country?
I didn't.
Okay, so maybe that's the answer. Maybe for our audience, what were they taught in school? Maybe they are taught about maybe a little bit about slavery or Rosa Parks. But were they taught about kingdom like Mali Kingdom? You have someone like Mansa Musa, the richest man I think ever lived. You have like Egypt, you have those pyramids. There's a lot you have like in Nigeria, there are people who are very good at arts, and their sculpture. So there were people who were really good, but are we publishing the achievements of black people? Are we publishing what, let's say, what we bring, for example, in UK society? Because I remember, this is something I usually say, are we invisible? Because sometimes you realize, I remember ages ago when COVID started, you look at the newspaper, all you'll see is white nurses, white doctors. But if you think our very own NHS, we have lots of ethnic minorities, lots of doctors, and they die, may they rest in peace. They died during COVID, but why we never used to see them on a front page of the newspaper? So for people not knowing, they are thinking, oh, maybe black people, they're not doing anything. The only time you'll see is like there's been bomb or something, then you'll see black person face on a newspaper. So that can be a challenge as well. I think is people start, first of all, we need to start celebrating black people. We need to show positive images of black people. Because someone said, do you know who invented traffic lights? I didn't know it was a black person. So those are the stories. They are not being told. Like for me, I remember when working in HMRC, I started a blog where I'm blogging, sharing achievements of black people here in Wales. And the very first post I've done was to do with Betty Campbell. I don't know if you've heard of Betty Campbell.
There's a statue now, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a statue outside. Yeah, so there's a statue outside our office. So Betty Campbell, the first head mistress here in Wales. So for me, I will say, those are the things we need to teach our children. We need to teach people around. They could see, you know what, even black people, they are bringing positive change we are adding value to their society. So we are not just troublemakers, we are there to add something. And I usually say, for example, a black woman, when you raise your voice, sometimes they say, oh, she's black. You know how they say it, yeah? So it's knowing we have positive people, we have role model, we have people in Wales from ethnic minorities who are doing amazing things. But do we know who they are?
Yeah, it's 100%. And actually, it's not just about changing societal perceptions, but also, like you're saying, that little black boy seeing, someone who looks like him in a powerful position can know that, they can achieve it. I mean, now we've got Rishi as, the Prime Minister, despite whatever political views we might have. That's something that's quite positive in a sense. It's
positive,
so,
because you have the young boys thinking, girls thinking, you know what, I can be Prime Minister.
Can be done.
Can be done. But before, we never thought you could be a Prime Minister. Or you could think, you know what, the better I can get, maybe being a supervisor. That's the far as I can go. But now we are start dreaming big. And you see, like Kamala, I remember seeing a young girl say they want to be president in US. So you kind of see now positive role model. And for me, I do watch a lot of movies. And Wakanda, where we have lots of black cast.
Black
Panther, yeah. So that one, it shows people different perception. So they show, you know what, these people, they can add value. There is something, I know that one is just Marvel, I love Marvel movie, but it's something which people, to seeing it is to believe it. If you don't see it, it's really hard to believe. So the society, I think they need to see more positive about what we are bringing to this Welsh society more than what negative. Because if you're gonna only show in the media or you're gonna only publicize when we do something wrong, people perception is going to be like, oh, black people, they're trouble. So they need to start knowing us, knowing we are adding value, knowing like we can bring positive change into a society. I think that would be really good.
And I think another thing is people just taking time to educate themselves as well. So I'm not sure if you know this, but near here in Llanelli, there was supposed to be asylum seekers coming in a hotel. They've now scrapped the plan. The Home Office has now scrapped the plan. But essentially that has just brought so much polarization within the community. And then when you challenge them, the far right, when you see the narratives that are coming from the far right groups, it's all based on a lot of misconceptions, people not understanding really how the migration system works and what the reality for asylum seekers, for example, is. So I think sometimes just taking time outside of your day, instead of just taking in what is out there in the media or what is out there from other people, you just take time and just, research and find out what the reality is for certain people. Be intentional about finding those positive things. Otherwise, you could easily just be skewed into a negative place. And the second thing I would say is just being aware about our own prejudices.
That's true.
I think every single person has a prejudice about whatever, because prejudices are simply based on what experiences we've had in our lives. So anyone who says they don't have a prejudice is lying. It's just about, if you have awareness of that prejudice, then at least now it's not going to manifest as hate, it's not going to manifest as discrimination. So actually just taking time to always just reflect on whatever your position is and where it's come from.
No, you're totally right. I usually tell people we all have biases. I know it sounds like criticism, but it doesn't. You said it. It's like the way how that's the way we view the world, is it? So we all have, as you said, as you start understanding that, and education, educate yourself. That is very, very important. I usually tell people, Google is your friend. There's a lots of material out there. There's podcasts, there's everything,
Exactly.
there's YouTube, so you can go anywhere, educate yourself, because the more you educate yourself, the more you learn about the other person, the more you'll be able to understand it. It's like you walk in their shoes, you be in their shoes. I think that would be very important as well.
Yes, yeah. And actually, even in terms of educating, also just have open conversations.
Yeah.
I think I know it's a bit challenging now because people want to be politically correct all the time. So I think sometimes that whole push towards political correctness pushes us to just be more reserved, and we're scared of being cancelled, or we're scared of saying the wrong thing. But then I think that's very damaging to us because, we're not learning, we're not putting ourselves in situations where we're having open enough conversations that feel safe enough for us to be learning, growing and developing. So I think as much as possible, speak to people, ask questions. If you're not sure about something, have that open forum and actually just be like, what, I'm not sure about this. What do you think? Tell me more about your experiences. Let's just be open about communicating better and hearing what other people's perspectives
You're
are.
totally right. And what I like is about, you've mentioned something about people worried about making mistakes. Yes, we are going to make a mistake. I have made mistakes as well. Remember I said I do blog a lot in work. So there's I remember during Black History Month last year, I wrote something about enslaved people. I called slavery, but someone didn't like it because it dehumanized the people. So now I've changed myself and used enslaved people instead of just slave people. Okay. So what I said,
instead of saying slaves, you said enslaved people.
Enslaved people. Okay. Yeah. So I will say you will make mistake, but all you need to do is apologize and move on, because you can try to defend it and say, oh, so and so have used it, but it's still gonna leave that person hurt or still. So for me, I would say when we make a mistake, apologize and move on. And learn. And so it's just all that you need. And also I'm realized, like, I remember there's this term where I used to, white people, they don't like a lot, is white privilege. When in work we used to say something white privilege, people they use like they stop even talking. They used to hate it. So what I used to tell them is like, when I'm saying white privilege, I'm not saying they're having easy life or their life is easier. We all have privilege. I have my own privilege, and I usually say white privilege, it means your color of skin doesn't make your life difficult. People, they are not following you around because they are on stores because your color of skin, you've got white color. So your skin color make your life easier. That's what privilege is about. I've got my privilege. I have disabilities.
But you're able.
But I am able. Yeah. But then, yes, for example, I am straight. But I understand some areas, people like transgender, they're having issues. I've never experienced any challenges because of my gender. But so it means from those situations I can learn from my transgender colleague, because I'm dealing with their experience, not my experience. And that transgender colleague, they can learn from me because if they're white, because they haven't experienced this racism because of the color of their skin. So we all learning from each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just to listen and learn from each other, and then as you said, ask questions, because the more we asking questions, the more we learning and more we learning. But then again, I've heard stories where black people sometimes, for example, they are tired of telling their stories, because sometimes they said, oh, share your lived experience. So sometimes they are tired of telling. So when you ask question and you realize the person doesn't look happy to answer the question, please understand, because sometimes maybe you are the 100 person, they're telling the same story or the same answer. So it's just ask, and if they're not happy to answer, you can ask another person. But I will say, research. Google is your friend. You'll get most of the answer using your search engine, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that just contributes to all of us just being, better people for each other, that whole inclusive society that we mentioned, which is part of the Welsh dream, right? Because the Welsh dream is not just about, achieving success. It's not just about, reaching your ambition, but also just you thriving in literally all the different aspects of your life, knowing that socially, you're accepted and, you feel comfortable just being in the environment that you're in. And every single one of us has a role to play in that. So,
And I think at the end, all what we need is equal opportunities. We want to be treated fair and like a human. So if you treat someone the way you wanted to be treated, respect, that's all you need. So if you treat someone the way you want to be treated, I think that will just
solve a lot of the
problem. Yeah, that's true.
And also, though, actually, in as much as there is also equal opportunity or equality, I think, there's now the term in EDI now, equity, about actually realizing the barriers that people have and working to, make sure that they reach the same level as other people. So, how can we change the situation so that it considers the person who's furthest away from it. So, Prue, if there's anything that a person could take away from this podcast, just one thing, one top tip that you could give someone, what would it be?
I would say keep going no matter what. There will be lots of disappointment on your journey, so resilience is essential. You will fall down, you will fail, people, they will close the door, they will say no, but don't let that disappoint you, or don't let that make you like, I'm not gonna continue. There's gonna be time where you're gonna think, is it really worth it? You know what? It is worth it. So the one tip I will say, keep going no matter what. That would be my tip.
Okay, so Prue, before we close, my last question to you is, what is your Welsh dream?
So my Welsh dream, if I think about it, and I feel like it's gonna sound like I'm in that beauty pageant, like world peace, but no, honestly, I would love to have a society where everyone is respected, everyone can achieve their dream. It doesn't matter where you are born in this country, or you're an immigrant like me coming from Tanzania or any other country. It means you can achieve. Your voice is heard, you're respected, you can do wonders, and there's no dream which is big enough. You can achieve your dream. They say sky is the limit, I say sky is a starting point. So whatever you want to achieve in Wales, you can achieve. And as I said before, I love Wales. I feel Welsh. I love this country. I've been very supportive. People have been really nice. I've had time of my life. So this is my home too. Tanzania is my home, but this is my home. So sometimes I get confused. I said, I'm going home, and then I'm thinking, where? Is it back home in Tanzania or home in Wales? So I will say it would be nice having a society where we are all equal opportunities to everyone. We can all achieve what we want to achieve or what we deserve. So that for me will be my Welsh dream.
No, I absolutely love it.